Welcome to NiceTalk, the crypto show by NiceHash, where we're feature expert commentary from around the industry. My name is Shaun, and joining us from NiceHash is Joe, our Chief Marketing Officer, and Marco, our Mining Hardware Manager at NiceHash. Today, we are happy to welcome our special guest, Samual Westrich, Chief Technical Officer at Dash. So, Sam, give us a short brief about yourself and what you do at Dash.
Sure. Well, I'll start with myself. I got into crypto quite a long time ago, back in China in 2012, actually. Probably one of the first, made some of the first Bitcoin transactions in China, actually. And in the first 3 years of being in crypto, I was mainly focused on Bitcoin. And then a project popped out. It was back in the day, Dash was called Darkcoin. And our founder, the founder of Darkcoin, that later became Dash, made a Masternode network on top of the normal node network, and this really captivated me. And I started getting involved. I wrote our first iOS wallet back in 2015, actually, even though that Apple only approved the cryptocurrency on their store in 2017. And then over time, I wrote the consensus libraries, many consensus libraries for Dash. And then more recently this year, I became the CTO. Should I go on to?
Okay. And, sorry. So what can you tell us about, what Dash is? Let's say somebody has never heard of Dash before. What differentiates you from other cryptocurrencies, and how is the currency used in a day-to-day fashion by your users?
Yeah, sure. So we're one of the oldest cryptos on the market. We actually started back in 2014. This is like before Ethereum even started, I guess, because Ethereum started in 2015. It's really a crypto dedicated to payments. We have created tech that provides additional features useful for payments and kind of required by the payment industry. For example, we have instant confirmation. In Bitcoin, for example, when you make a transaction, everybody knows that it's zero confirmations can be rolled back based off of like a tax on the Bitcoin network. It's very rare nowadays, but it still was quite a concern earlier. And, we have instant confirmation. We have very low cost transactions, and we even have optional privacy. So our goal was always to build like the most user-friendly payment tools for users. And over the last few years, we've been developing another technology called Dash Pay, which is we're going to try to provide more of a Venmo or PayPal experience to our users. So instead of, for example, sending a payment to an address where you have to ask the person to send over the address over somewhat in a complicated way, instead you're just going to have your list of contacts and you're going to send a payment to them. And I know that probably sounds familiar in the crypto world, but other cryptos generally do that by just associating an address to a person, right? And everything is public. So, for example, if your grandmother sends you $50, you can see on the blockchain that is happening.
Your cousin will know that he didn't get 15 euros from
Exactly. And those things are not very you don't want everybody to know who's made payments between who. And in Dash, we understand that, and we've created a new technology around this. So, for example, you are always able to know who you paid to, but nobody else will know that stuff.
Cool. What about what are your biggest advantages over other cryptocurrencies, or maybe even what's your biggest competition in fiat world? I would say that's PayPal, probably.
Yeah. Well, one of our main advantages is that we have extremely low fees. So, sometimes I've made payments on the Bitcoin blockchain, and my fee is like, okay, $2. Recently, it's been actually pretty good, but it's gone all the way up to $20 in the past for a transaction. And our fees are around 1 cent. So the impact on the price is practically non-existent. On top of that, compared to like PayPal or like Visa and MasterCard, we have no transactional costs on the merchant side, like most cryptos. Then we have instant settlement, right? Well, actually, this is something that I probably have not talked enough about. One thing that we do differently than other cryptos is we have a Masternode network. And this Masternode network allows us to have functionality that other cryptos don't have. Our Masternode network actually locks transactions, kind of like a hybrid proof of work, proof of stake system. So in a proof of work system, transactions are sent, and on top of that, they're locked by our proof of stake system. And that allows instant settlement. So the transactions can never be reversed. And so you can never have some things like double spends on a network.
Yeah, I know one of the things that we definitely want to get into a little bit later is how that Masternode network works with the proof of work, because we know you do allow mining on the Dash network, but then you also have that extra layer as well. But real quick, it sounds like Dash is making ground a little bit under the radar, and with some real world use cases. Can viewers see things like that on the NiceHash exchange?
Yeah, actually, Dash was one of the first coins we listed on NiceHash exchange. NiceHash was actually founded back in 2014, so same year as Dash, interesting enough. And yeah, then we launched in 2019, we launched our exchange, and Dash is one of the first coins that was available there, and it still has very good trading volume on our platform as well.
Yeah, so that's one of the benefits about being able to have the NiceHash exchange is that, users can actually mine and they can exchange right there all inside of the NiceHash network. We recently saw that Dash was the #1 cryptocurrency in Venezuela, which is quite an achievement, especially since Venezuela has its own cryptocurrency. What did you do in order to be able to kind of have that market presence there? And we know that, Dash is really heavily marketed in the US, South America, and a little bit in Africa as well. What are the goals for Dash to be able to kind of expand into Europe and the Asia markets as well?
Okay, well, I'll first talk about Venezuela. So how did we achieve that? Well, we have local teams and community working with merchants there. At the same time, as I said before, our transaction fees are, very, very low. And when transactions in Venezuela are already quite low, you don't want to be paying, 10% just towards transaction fees. That doesn't make sense for an everyday user. So it kind of goes hand in hand that these places would go towards a solution that is beneficial for them in terms of the transaction cost. We also found out that, it's not just enough to have a good product, you also have to support that product. So through our community, we have local help desks in Venezuela, and we also have a help desk for Dash Core Group, and that's available in Spanish. So, it's very helpful with adoption because we respond to hundreds, I'm not sure exactly how many questions, but hundreds, if not thousands of questions, per month. And then,
at least in Venezuela, are you seeing people utilize things like mobile wallets and stuff like that to do transactions, or are you seeing a lot more of those transactions happening from a desktop perspective, say if they were buying things over the web from their computer?
No, actually mobile wallets. Right now it's not the case, but earlier, I think last year, we had more Android downloads in Venezuela than the rest of the world combined.
Cool.
Wow.
Which,
I was thinking that people can use it directly in marketplaces or things like this. It's much easier for them.
Yeah, we had I mean we have a lot of places in Venezuela that accept Dash, and it you know it just works.
Having that team locally in Venezuela or in other areas, that infrastructure takes time. It takes resources in order to build up, and things of that nature. How was the local merchant community? How were they accepting of the idea of being able to utilize something like Dash as opposed to the local currency? And did you have any limitations or pushback from the government as far as, because a lot of times governments, having that control over the currency is one of their main things to making sure they stay in power or they have order. So were you getting any pushback or anything from governments by replacing them from the ability to transfer value from one person to another?
So this is actually not really my domain of expertise. I'm very technical, but I'll do my best to answer.
Yep.
Sure. There hasn't been much pushback because in the end, I think there are some problems with the economy in Venezuela. Rampant inflation. They can't really use their own currency to make payments. So I don't actually I don't know for sure about pushback from high ups in the government, but I think that just having users use it, it's hard to go against that from their perspective, and they probably have let's say bigger fish to fry.
I was about to say they probably have bigger things to worry about.
Yeah.
And then so Joe is and Marco are really from the European side, and so they get to know that geographic area, and maybe they can tackle kind of what are your go-to-market strategies over in that part of the world since you've been so successful over here in the Americas.
Yeah, so we've been in intense, as I said before, and I'm going to answer this more on the tech side, right? Because that's more my area of expertise. We've been intensely developing something called Dash Platform for the last, it's been quite a long time now, 5 years, and we're set to release it early next year to our mainnet. And what Dash Platform allows, many things, but one thing that we're building on top of it as kind of like one of our first releases is something called DashPay. And as I said before, DashPay will allow users to send payments between themselves much more closely to a Venmo experience or a PayPal experience where you send a contact request, and after you have a friendship between you and the other person, you can just send many payments, and I can send tons of payments to that person, and they can send tons of payments to me, and nobody else will know that we sent these payments between each other. And I think that why crypto hasn't really taken off in Europe is because it's actually quite hard to use still. I think exactly. I think that we need to make it as easy as, I want to send money to Joe or to Marco, right? You just to Shaun. You just press done, it's done.
Even using PayPal is quite hard for the mass people. Even PayPal can be hard to use. Imagine one older guy using Dash or any other cryptocurrency for sending value.
Yeah, well, what we want to do in our wallets is just make it so simple that pretty much anybody can do it. And that's what we've been working on. So
the other issue I notice is that users are afraid to do it. Because if you screw up big. If you send on the wrong address or whatever, you lose that balance. So that's quite a big drawback for using cryptocurrency.
It is linked
That's
linked
what I
directly to
saw
the
among
contact.
my
so
friends, and
this makes it much easier.
Yeah, it's actually, it's actually, it's you actually create channels between individuals. They're on-chain channels, but yeah, so there's no way to ever lose cryptocurrency. It's just not possible.
That's very cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So,
Well, let's I was gonna say, let's shift away from more of the geographic success and marketing and things, and let's move right into your wheelhouse, which is really the technical aspect of Dash. So one of the things we touched on a little bit earlier was the Masternode system that layers on top of the Dash blockchain, and maybe layer on top is not the best way to, so you can explain exactly kind of how that works. But can you give us an idea of what does it take in order to have a Masternode? How many Masternodes are on the network, and is this kind of like proof of stake, proof of authority, or how does that consensus mechanism work inside of the Dash ecosystem?
Sure. So Masternodes were kind of the reason I joined Dash, believe it or not. We've had them since 2015. At the very beginning, we didn't talk of them as proof of stake, and the reason why we didn't talk about as them of proof of stake is because it worked very, very different from other proof of stake systems that existed at the time. And probably nobody in the audience will even remember. Does anybody here remember what the first proof of stake coin was?
no, maybe help us.
No.
It was Purecoin. It was Purecoin. Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore. But the point is that we did not call it proof of stake at the beginning because we didn't. First, our masternodes were not doing what we're not actually creating blocks. So because they were not creating blocks, it's not really proof of stake. They were just mixing actually for our coin join feature. That was the first thing that we had on the Masternode network. So it allowed for a certain degree of anonymity, and is why Dash sometimes is still referred to as a privacy coin. We kind of moved away from the privacy part because the other features that were available with the use of the Masternode network were far more interesting. I'll kind of touch on them really quickly. First one that we did was instant send locks. So basically all of our transactions on the network are confirmed by our proof of stake system. So we kind of have the best of both worlds. And then we did something called chain locks. Some people might be aware, a lot of the proof of work blockchains, or pretty much all of them, are subject to 50% attacks and 50% mining attacks. And this happens when one party has too much hashing power, or one or multiple parties, and they secretly, well, there's actually multiple types of 50% attacks, but one of them is that they secretly mine blocks, and then they release all these blocks at the same time, and they basically change the active chain to a different chain. So all the transactions that happened on one chain get basically reversed. And this is very painful for many cryptocurrencies that have been attacked. Dash cannot be attacked with a 50% attack because of our Masternode chain locking system. Also, well, I have a lot to talk about. But yeah, so back in the early days, we had our Masternode system, which was normal keys, right? So, but then in 2018, we started using threshold aggregated signatures, and this allowed insane scalability compared to many other projects. In fact, I believe that the only projects that are in use that have threshold cryptography in active use, I think, are us and ICP, Internet Computer, by Dfinity. And yeah, so with that technology, we then moved to what we wanted to build, Dash Pay and Dash Platform, which uses this threshold cryptography to provide proofs to mobile clients of something being true. So that's a whole other topic, but it allows for mobile clients to use something that we're calling data contracts to exchange information, but with extremely small footprints. And that's what we're going to be releasing next year.
Can you try explaining what exactly is Masternode for user who has no idea?
Oh yes, sorry.
Yeah, maybe in this kind of way. Just like Masternode is like a node. Yeah.
Sure. Yes, it's a node. So it serves the network just like a normal node. But to have a masternode, you need to take 1,000 Dash and pretty much lock it up. And when you lock it up, you're going to get rewards from every block that the masternode, well, not from every block, but every, sorry, let me start over. There are 4,500 masternodes on our network. And basically, every block, one masternode is chosen, kind of like in a round robin
to confirm
way.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
okay,
the masternode, the masternode itself does not confirm the proof of work blockchain. That's done by the miners. However, the masternode, we have something called masternode quorums, which are 400 masternodes, and together they confirm a previous confirmed block by the miners.
Okay, so can anybody become masternode, or is there a limited amount of masternodes?
Well, there's limited amount of masternodes by the amount of coin supply.
Coins, yes, of course.
Obviously, but yeah, anybody can buy 1,000 Dash if they have enough capital to do so, and then they can run a masternode. And the returns are around 6.5% per year.
So yeah, basically masternodes are proof of stake. It's very similar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very similar.
Yeah. What?
Now, one thing you talked about real quick was that 400. So the kind of 2 layers there. Is that 400 kind of just locked down to trusted individuals, or is that something where anybody else can participate in that as well?
No. So there are 4,500 masternodes, and 400 are selected. Well, actually, not 4 times 400 are selected for our strongest quorum, and our strongest quorum is the one that locks blocks. So, and it's random.
But by locking, you mean confirming blocks?
Yes, chain locking. It's called. It basically makes sure that the block can never ever be reverted on our network. And it worked.
So that helps with the 51%
exactly,
because you're using that mechanism.
Exactly. So it basically makes 51% attacks very, very hard, because not only would you need 51% of the network, but you would also need 80% of masternodes. Which, if you had that many masternodes,
that would be a tall order.
You don't need to create a 51.
Exactly.
I mean, it wouldn't be in your interest.
Okay. Well, what about smart contracts? Those are quite popular right now.
Does
Dash support any, or does it plan to?
Well, currently no. As I said, we're going to be releasing Dash Platform early next year, probably around March. The first version of Dash Platform does not support smart contracts, but instead we have data contracts, and it's slightly different, as its smart contracts are generally Turing complete, and our data contracts are not. But our data contracts do allow quite a lot of things that smart contracts allow. For example, NFTs and other assets owned by an identity, but they don't allow the same level of coding that smart contracts allow. We will be implementing smart contracts, but it's not for our initial version. Our initial version is really centered around very succinct proofs, so mobile clients can use these systems very efficiently.
Okay, well, I want to move over from really kind of the technical chain stuff over into mining, because obviously NiceHash, we are a mining powerhouse, and that's our main focus. So wanted to, right now Dash is purely on ASICs. Can you tell us more about the X11 algorithm?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of a funny story. I rewrote the X11 algorithm in JavaScript. It was one of my first things that I did for Dash. Our founder back in the day, he wanted two things. He wanted an iOS app, and he wanted the X11 algorithm written in pure JavaScript, pure JavaScript. No, and that's kind of hard because JavaScript is not the perfect language for it. So I rewrote it from scratch. So it was. Let me talk a little bit about the algorithm. It was made by our founder, whose name is Evan Duffield. It took the NIST finalist hash functions. Oh, I should probably explain what that is. So back in 2012, there was a competition to replace SHA-256, SHA-2, with basically SHA-3. They wanted to find the next hash function for the new, for the new decade or for the next few years. And they there were many hash companies and foundations and governments that applied, and there were probably about 30 hash functions submitted. And there were 5 that made it to the final round, and another 6 to the another 7 or 8 to the semi-final round. And basically X11 is taking 5 of the hash functions from the final round and 6 from the semi-final round, and using them together to create a hash function that is much harder to build an ASIC for, basically, because some of these hash functions, I rewrote the code on them. Some of them are very painful to write as code, so I can imagine making an ASIC for them must have been very painful for whoever did that.
Yeah, but they did it.
It was just a matter of time.
Of course. Do you plan to change the algorithm?
So right now we really right now we really don't. And the reason why we don't plan on changing the algorithm is because, it's very important for decentralization, probably, to change the algorithm. However, what Dash is focused on is decentralization of the masternodes. The mining, since we're immune to 50% attacks, it doesn't really matter that a miner has more than 50% of the hash function. So it's less of a priority right now to think about. And what we've actually seen quite a lot of is that miners often sell their cryptocurrency immediately. So it's not really that miners are like hoarding a massive amount of Dash that could hurt our network either.
So with like companies, ASICs are always changing and trying to match your algorithms, and we've seen like Bitmain and other manufacturers announcing new generations all the time, and some of the new ones are like 65 times more hash rate, I think, than the current ones. Do you see that impacting the network with such huge advances in the technology used for mining, or do you think this is a benefit?
Well, I don't actually think that there has been much impact. I feel like, if it's more efficient for hash power, I'm all for it. I've actually been to Bitmain in China a few years ago, and right when they were making their first ASIC. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for, it's bound to happen, right? As technology advances, you're going to have more and more powerful ASICs, and you just have to kind of keep up with the time, in my opinion.
Is with you not wanting to swap to, say, a different algorithm or anything, obviously GPU mining is not optional on Dash right now. Is there any concern, I guess, from an EWaste perspective, given the fact new generations of miners come out? If you're 65 times more powerful on your new ones, essentially that can almost make the old ones more obsolete from a power consumption versus hashing power perspective. Is any of that taken into account whenever kind of thinking about the future of mining at Dash?
Well, again, we in Dash, right? We take our block reward, and 60%, roughly 60% goes to our masternode network as proof of stake, and 40% goes to our miner. And because of that, goes to the miners. And because of that, the miners, the energy cost of our network is far, far, far less per transaction than other networks that are comparable in hash power. That's also probably due to X11 using a little bit less power than other hash functions as well. I'm sorry, I probably did not answer your question. Could you repeat it?
No, it's fine. Yeah, so particularly like one of the benefits, at least with GPU mining, is the fact that they can be used for other things, right? So you can do gaming, you can do things like that. Whereas with an ASIC, it has a single function. It's a single algorithm. So if you make any adjustment to the algorithm, or the case of what Joe was talking about, where manufacturers are coming out with things where the new generation might be 65 times more powerful, that really starts to make the last generation, or maybe 2 generations ago, those ASICs almost become extremely expensive paperweights. So from an e-waste perspective, or just kind of how do you see, and this might even be completely outside of your control, especially if you're not looking to change the algorithm, but how does this affect the Dash network down the road, given the fact that 40% of your block rewards go to miners? Is that of any concern, or are you really kind of relying on the fact that the master node really makes up the majority of they get 60% of the rewards, but also it's kind of that extra layer of protection, so you don't necessarily have to worry about that.
Exactly. We really don't have to worry. It is, there is the point that it's not great for, like it would be great if the mining was a little bit more decentralized and an average user could mine our cryptocurrency. But in the end, if you change the algorithm, there's going to be another ASIC down the line. So you'd have to change the algorithm, quite often. I think Monero does that
like 4 times. Yes.
So that we did consider it, but in the end, we just we had a lot of people invested in X11 ASICs. Right. And to say, and we're the biggest cryptocurrency that uses X11 by far. So we would make a lot of people very unhappy if we moved away from X11, right? People that have just bought ASICs. It's more of a political decision than anything, right? It's you have to make people that are invested in your project somewhat happy. So, it's also not really, while this is somewhat technical, I really, we have a governance model in Dash. So it's not that, actually, I probably should have talked about this earlier, what makes us unique. Every single month, 10% of our budget is allocated to our governance. Anybody can make a proposal. And some of these proposals are purely like for changes of the network. For example, recently one passed. When you make a proposal, it costs 5 Dash to make that proposal. And there was actually a proposal that was made to lower that fee to 1 Dash. And anybody could make a proposal, for example, to change the hashing algorithm. In fact, I think that's actually even been done, but it was voted down. We really care about what our community wants, and we're not going to make any of these decisions by ourselves because we don't really feel like we even have the authority to do so. So if Dash Core Group, let's say, felt it was the right thing, we would make a proposal to our network asking them, would you like to do this? But I really doubt that we would get the yes votes.
I was going to say that the next...
Okay. So Dash is listed on the NiceHash Power.
I was going to say the next question to follow on from that, that the decisions are community driven, would be if Dash has any plans to change to proof of stake completely and to remove the mining element, like Ethereum, for example. How would you see that in the future?
Well, for now, we're not doing that. But we kind of have a hybrid blockchain where we have a proof of work blockchain, right? And Dash Platform coming out next year is actually going to be a proof of stake blockchain, kind of our layer 2 on top of our proof of work blockchain. And it's kind of like a derivative blockchain, and it is proof of stake. It's created through proof of work because the proof of work creates the coins that are necessary to run Masternodes that together make the proof of stake system work. But we kind of have that hybrid model, and we're going to be sticking for that for the time being.
So basically,
maybe eventually we will.
You already have the best of both worlds, so why would you go full one way or the other?
That's kind of the current case. If we might eventually decide to replace our payment chain logic with proof of stake, but for right now, we're not doing that.
So, Marco, I was going to touch with you real quick. So, Dash is listed on the NiceHash
marketplace.
Yes. Marketplace. Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about how users can use that in order to buy hash power to mine the Dash network?
Yeah, I mean, they can just simply find the pool they want to mine with. They must have a Dash wallet, and they input the pool to the marketplace and buy hash power. It's that simple. Then they get paid to their wallet. They can actually mine Dash too. Well, they will be paid in Bitcoin, but they can also connect their ASICs to NiceHash. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. And did anybody have any other questions with regards to mining for the Dash network? We're all set there. All right. Well, wanted to kind of understand a little bit about Dash's future. I know we touched on that just a little bit with kind of the Dash Pay and things of that nature. But in terms of bringing more awareness to the use case and the ease of payment of Dash, are there any plans for Dash's marketing team or any people boots on the ground or anything like that in order to kind of push the future of Dash as a currency from this point?
Sure. So as you said, I already talked about Dash Pay, so we won't talk about that again. In terms of marketing, yes. And we actually have a new project that came out a few months ago called Dash Direct, which allows people to make purchases at hundreds of stores in the United States. I've used it at Airbnb, and it's really great because you have like a 2 to 10% discount at many places. Like I think cheese, what is it called? Cheese Factory, or there's a restaurant in the US, or Cheesecake Factory.
The Cheesecake
Factory.
And
it's like there's Arby's. There are just so many places, and we actually started doing a promotion on Ubers in Florida. So you can actually see like Dash promotions on top of like the top of cars, telling people, try out Dash Direct. I mean, it works great, and it works seamlessly with our wallets. So for example, you just find what the place where you want to purchase, and you basically purchase a gift card for that amount, and it immediately goes to our wallet. You pay in crypto, and it just switches back between the two apps, and it works perfectly.
I think that's a really cool feature that you do that like that. So many coins and currencies we see trying to make the process easier for newcomers, and use so many different third parties to make this happen. It becomes like a collection of third parties in order to achieve one thing. But the fact that you're pushing like your own apps and your own mobile payment system like this, I think it's very cool.
It's actually, well, one quick thing. So Dash is an ecosystem of many projects. Dash Core Group, we maintain the wallets, we were creating platform, but this was actually another company in the Dash umbrella that did this. So,
yeah, I think focusing on the end user's experience is really kind of the key to really advancing a cryptocurrency in the form of it's purely a currency. You're not doing a bunch of other fancy things and utilizing the blockchain technology in order to fulfill that. You're really looking at this. This is a form of payment from one individual to another. You're able to do it electronically. You don't have to go through. I mean, you do have the trust of the Masternodes to make sure everything stays kind of in line. But essentially, from each individual, there's no additional trust that's needed there. I think making that as user friendly as possible is kind of the biggest barrier to entry in order to get this kind of to be mass adopted. And you really kind of have use cases kind of fleshed out in the United States, South America, kind of as we touched on earlier. Hopefully we can see that also expand over into Europe and into Asia, because there's a gigantic market over there where that is definitely much more needed from a day-to-day perspective. So other than the mobile wallet and stuff of that nature and the promotions you're doing, is there anything else from a technological perspective that's going to be coming on the horizon over the next 6 months, other than the Dash Pay?
Well, yes, as I said, like Dash Pay is on top of platform, and Dash platform allows you to register data contracts. So for example, if you wanted to register like a food delivery service, you could do that. You could create a dApp on our network that allows for and that uses Dash Pay for food delivery. And then it's not smart contracts, but you don't really need smart contracts to register information on a blockchain. So I mean, we already have like 20 different dApps that have been built that are just waiting for release. Like, for example, we have like a decentralized Twitter, and just more of the basic dApps. So I think that when they all get released, together, I think it's going to be a very exciting year next year.
Yeah, sounds cool.
And one other thing I just thought about real quick is Dash as a organization. How large is Dash, from a customer support perspective all the way up to kind of leadership and things of that nature? Like, how big is the organization as a whole?
So you mean, so there's Dash Core Group, which is the main development organization for Dash. But then there's Dash Incubator, which is another development organization for Dash. We have, I don't know, maybe 10 different marketing teams around the world. There was one, when you mentioned Asia earlier, you can actually, in Thailand, there are many restaurants that take Dash. You can just go and pay. So
how do you guys get founded?
It's through, so that was done through our governance system. So anybody can submit a proposal, and if that proposal passes, they receive funding for their demanded amount.
Okay, but where does that funding come from?
It comes from the blockchain itself. So we put we put a certain amount towards Masternodes, a certain amount for miners, and then 10% for our governance system.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, because I know in order to, I mean, that's one of the things that I've seen with a lot of different projects is getting that mass adoption, making it super user friendly as far as getting people to actually utilize the service. It takes a lot of manpower. It takes a lot of resources in order to be able to kind of pull it off. I mean, that's one of the things that from a mining perspective, NiceHash really brings to the table is the fact it's user friendly. It's very easy to use, but it's not something that is, very easy to set up. There's a lot of resources that go behind making that very user friendly. So I imagine the same thing kind of happens there at Dash, and having those multiple organizations that really kind of focus on single tasks that probably helps make things a lot easier for mass adoption.
Yeah, exactly. And to answer some of kind of your previous question, in Dash Core Group we have around 45 people. Of those 45 people, we have about maybe 30 in the tech area, but not crazy amount in business development and marketing. And we really leave business development and marketing. Well, we don't leave it to our community. We are one of many in our community that bring that forward.
So thanks for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed learning all about Dash. And if you haven't tried crypto mining before, NiceHash is the easiest way to get started. Go to nicehash.com and try our quick miner if you're new to mining, or try our NiceHash miner to take advantage of the algorithm switching, and you can start earning money from your PC today. Make sure to tune in on the 10th of December, where we'll be featuring another special guest, Wilkie, the developer of LolMiner, and make sure to leave your comment on today's show. We'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks for joining us today, and we will see you all next time.